Come on in to Margaret McSweeney's Kitchen for Kitchen Chat, where every week you'll meet chefs, cookbook authors, foodies, gourmets, and just plain people who love to eat. And along with laughter, chat, recipes, and stories about food, you'll sometimes also hear words of inspiration, love, and hope. As Margaret always says, Kitchen Chat is food for the senses and food for the soul. So grab a cup of coffee, put your feet up on a comfy chair, and get ready to spend a little time with Margaret and her friends.
Hello, dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. I'm your host, Margaret McSweeney, and I'm so excited you're joining us here in the award-winning Viking and La Cornue showroom in the Merchandise Mart. I'm here with my co-host, Chef Jamie Larita, who is the brand ambassador and designer of this beautiful showroom. And we are so excited to be here with someone you already know. You see him all the time as the Hungry Hound on ABC, 13-time James Beard Award winner, multimedia personality with a podcast with Chef Rick Bayless. We have so much to talk about, but especially pizza. Welcome to Kitchen Chat, Steve Dolinsky.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, both of you. This is great. Beautiful showroom, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank
Serious.
you so much.
Yeah.
Always hungry, seldom speechless.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I was trying to come up with like a motto for my redesigned website, stevedolinsky.com. And I was just, well, what do? I eat. I talk about the things that I eat. I talk about my travels. I share my experiences with people. I am seldom speechless. I always have something to say, either, in video form on television or on the podcast and audio, or writing about it for the Tribune's travel section or the Globe and Mail in Canada, or, I'm always talking about something.
Do you understand what trouble we could be possibly into? I mean, between the three of us, Steve, we could be here for like a week.
Yeah.
We could. There is so much. I mean, Chicago has, of course, so much to talk about food-wise, but right now I'm on a crazy pizza kick, but we could absolutely talk about food, in Chicago forever.
I mean, who doesn't love pizza? Pizza's like, I try to diet. I try to behave, but it's always pizza that brings me back.
It's everybody's comfort food. Everybody can relate to pizza. I've done stories about barbecue and pho and Italian beef, and there are people who really are crazy about it, but you talk about pizza and it's like everybody comes out of the woodwork. Everybody has an opinion about pizza, especially if they grew up in a town where pizza was like in Homewood or Flossmoor in the south side of Chicago, it's Aurelio's. Or if you're from the west side, it's Armand's. Or if you're from the North Shore, it's Barnaby's.
Right.
And so people have very strong opinions about pizza, but wherever you are in the country, there are strong opinions about pizza.
So
that's why,
Steve, do you think people fight about pizza?
They absolutely fight about pizza. I'm living proof of that. Everybody has an opinion about it. It's like, and I think a lot of it is colored by where you're from.
Right.
What kind of pizza you grew up eating. That's a big point of, what I talk about in the book is PEG syndrome, pizza I grew up eating syndrome. It really colors your opinion about what you think is the right type of pizza.
Right. And I have to ask, do you have a favorite?
I have a favorite style. I think I like what I would call artisan. Some would call neo-Neapolitan. It's definitely a longer fermentation. It's more hydration, more moisture in the dough, more chefy approach to pizza. Thinner, for sure. Mm-hmm. Even though I've spent 25 years plus in Chicago, I can appreciate deep dish, but my go-to pizza is typically thin. Oftentimes tavern style, which is square cut, thin and crispy pizza, which is the real Chicago style, I think. But I think my favorite is kind of an artisan, like, Great Lake, or like if you're from New York, Lucali, or that kind of pizza.
And speaking of chefy pizza, I love that in your new book, Pizza City, U.S.A.
Mm-hmm.
Book plug.
Yes, Chef Grant Atchis is the one that provided the foreword.
Yeah,
Can
Grant,
you share with us about that?
So Chef was up until recently my next door neighbor. And so I'd see him in the back, grilling, and his kids were over there and they're outside and we're talking about pizza. And I would notice he would post a picture from LA at a place called Pisana, and then I would follow him and go there and kind of back and forth. He went to La Briola because I talked about their deep dish. And so we got this talking about pizza, and he's from Michigan, so he understands sort of the Midwestern tavern style pie, but he just loves talking pizza. And so I asked him, would you write the foreword for the book? And he said, absolutely. He didn't hesitate at all. And it's a real honor to have
you were like, yes.
someone like Grant to write the foreword to your book. Yeah. And he talked about, what they would do with pizza at Alinea, for example.
Right.
You can't just do pizza, but they have their interpretation. So he added a picture of what Alinea does with their pizza, in quotes. And I just thought it was a great, having another Midwesterner who is known around the world for his cutting-edge cuisine, really, when it all comes down to it, it's pizza.
I would love to know what Chef Grant Atchis grills in his backyard. Does he ever?
Sausages,
Yeah,
like everybody else in the
everybody
Midwest.
else, right?
Like
Some
sausages
brats.
and steaks.
Brats.
He makes a good skirt steak, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
But very rarely do cookbooks make me drool. I have to say that I'm drooling over here.
And it's not a cookbook. There's no recipe. There are no recipes in this book.
It's a book about pizza.
It's a field guide. I want you to keep it in your handbags.
Got it.
Keep it in your glove box. Keep it in the back seat. Because you're out running around in Chicago. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be in this neighborhood.
Yes,
I want to check this out.
There are no recipes in here.
No,
but there are
maps. There are my top 5s. There are suggestions for places to go that might be near you. It's Pizza City, USA. Actually, the best thing, pizzacityusa.com has info on the book and our tours. We're doing tours.
Oh yeah, tell us about.
Well, they're a direct outgrowth of this book. We had this book planned a year ago. I turned it in, and I knew it was going to be quite a while before it came out in September. And so my wife and I were like, there is another pizza tour business in Chicago. They've been doing it for 7-8 years, called Chicago Pizza Tours. We're like, I think there's room for one more pizza tour business in Chicago. And so we said, let's just take it out of the book. And so I took some of the neighborhoods like Bucktown or West Loop or Westtown, and we created a tour that has 4 different styles of pizza in 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So every one of our tours is 4 styles of pizza in 3 hours. We do 4 tours every weekend. I lead the bus tour. And then we have docents, and our docents do the walking tours. So 4 styles, 3 hours.
Do you pair it with beer at all?
Well, you can drink on the tours, absolutely. I mean, the beer is served. You have to, that's extra. But beer and wine are encouraged, and all the places we visit, typically, I think maybe one exception, all serve really good booze. Yeah, so we go to Dante's for a New York slice. They've got Virtue cider, Virtue Rosé cider on tap.
I was just at Virtue.
Just fantastic cider,
out in
Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah.
So they do and you can go to you can get Apex Predator. Yeah. You can get a Moody Tongue beer over at Pizzeria Bibu in Lincoln Park. That's one of our stops. So yeah, beer is a big part of this, but it's certainly, if you want to go non-alcoholic, you can do that too.
So I'm a little bit, I'm a world, traveler based on my job, and I love that you have all of these guides in America, but you also go international.
For tours?
No, for your
for my
guides.
eating. Oh my gosh, yeah, for eating and writing, of course. So we were on vacation with our kids in Thailand in December, and we went to Chiang Mai because I'd been there once before, but I really love this dish called khao soi, which is kind of a chicken coconut milk curry soup with boiled noodles inside, crispy noodles on top.
Yum.
And then they sort of sprinkle it with fresh shallot and chili oil and pickled mustard greens, and of course a squeeze of fresh lime. And so I went to search this dish out. I went to about 6 different places, brought my video camera with me, shot some footage of it there, and then came back to Chicago and for ABC localized it and went to a place in Morton Grove and another place called Jin Thai in Edgewater and showed people, okay, so this is what it looks like at its source, and this is what it looks like in Chicago, and here's where to get it. So I definitely try to bring some of the international travel that I have. It's not as much as it used to be, but certainly it's getting more. My kids are older now.
Right.
And so I'm going on the road more and more.
Awesome.
So have you really developed your children's palate to have an international world flavor?
Oh, totally. Oh, my daughter's 21. She's a junior at U.S.A. And she even told me a couple months ago, she's like, Dad, I finally appreciate, all the travel we've had because I find I go to I go to a Korean restaurant, for example, and I can talk a little bit, I can schmooze in their language for sort of food-wise. And they have an immediate appreciation. They're like, well, how do you know so much about Korean food? And she's like, well, because we've been traveling, we've been to Seoul, and my dad takes me to Korean barbecue all the time. She goes, I now have an appreciation for everything you've done, sort of dragging us around, because she really loves when she has that connection with a restaurateur.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2. Daughter's 21, son is 18.
Wow.
And he's a senior in high school, and he's looking at colleges now, so I'll be an empty nester in a year.
So they've had this incredible, food life.
Yeah, they have.
And what about you? Did you have a food life growing up?
This is like the funny part of my life. No, I did not grow up with my mom's apron strings, making Sunday gravy and making these beautiful roasts. No, my mom kept kosher. We kept kosher. We lived in St. Cloud, Minnesota, where there were 10 Jewish families. And we kept kosher, so that means no pork, no shellfish, no mixing milk and meat together. We'd have to go to the Greyhound bus station when the kosher food would come from Minneapolis because we were in St. Cloud, which was an hour north of Minneapolis. So very isolated, and food was more sustenance. It was not pleasure. We did not have Julia Child's books in our home.
So what age did the shift occur? Were you like,
so there was a
I've
shift.
had enough of this kosher stuff?
So there was a shift. I didn't really realize there was another world out there because this was my world, right? I remember in junior high school, my brother brought his girlfriend home from college. She was from Australia, and she was a little bit older than he was and more well-traveled, and she was really into food. And she got me interested in cooking and unique dishes from other parts of the world. She gave me it's called the Australian Women's Home Weekly Cookbook series, which is not really like a thick cookbook, but just sort of like a thick magazine with great pictures. And I took that with me on my first job out of college. I went to Upper Michigan for a TV job and started messing around with that. And I mean, that really turned me on to food. Then I realized, well, there's this world beyond lamb chops and tuna casserole from the 70s that I had as a kid.
Is he still with this girl?
My sister-in-law?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, sadly, my brother passed away about 9 years ago, but my sister-in-law still lives in Australia. So she's from Australia. They met in America, lived in America for about 18 years, and then they all moved back to Australia with their kids.
I love that story.
So yeah, but I'm still in touch with her, of course. And, but yeah, she was really the game changer for me. Huh. And my mom still looks at all my career and she's like, where did this come from? Like, it wasn't from her and she knows it. Yeah, she realized, I mean, it was just, she had to cook because she had to cook. And I was the youngest of 3 kids. My sister's 12 years older. My brother's 9 years older. So I was really the baby. And like I said, food was sustenance. It was not about the pleasure of the table, which is, I feel like I've been making up for all that time, now in the last, 25 years of being in food.
Right.
And I love that you mentioned it began with a magazine, and here you are in this month's magazine.
Oh, yeah. A good segue. Wow.
Yeah, that was great. Mark, see how smooth McSweeney?
That is a segue.
So we're looking in this...
yes, Modern Luxuries men's book.
And there you are. What are we talking about here?
It's Pizza City, USA. It's Slice of Life. It's back in the section with all the restaurants. And they talk about the tours that are, again, every weekend, pizzacityusa.com. And then the book, which just came out, which is just... literally, I mean, I've never given birth to a human being, but this is like what I gave birth to because there were so many people worked on this, like my editor, my copy editor, my family. I went to 185 different places in the region to get to 101 that I recommend. And so we would do 3 a days for 3 months at a time. And, for every 3 restaurants you go to, one's a keeper.
Have you been to My Pie in Bucktown?
Love My Pie.
I love My Pie.
Larry Aronson is a legend in my eyes. He created My Pie back in 71, I think he opened up.
That's my go-to.
That's a great go-to.
But I have fights about Pequots.
You know what's funny? I do too.
People fight with me.
So My Pie opened the same year that Lou Malnati opened up his first place in Lincolnwood in 71. Different neighborhoods. He opened up in Lincolnwood. My Pie opened up near Loyola's campus. But I think that deep dish is really, it's not a stereotypical deep dish.
Right.
And I think it's so much different, I don't want to say better, but different than Pequots. Pequots tends to have a lot of dough, the bottom crust.
Yeah.
And I think My Pie is a bit more balanced. They also use different sauces for their thin and their thick.
Yeah.
They're deep. And they have a spice seasoning packet that they use Larry told me this because I met him a couple weeks ago for the first time, and he said, we've had to change our pizza to stay the same because suppliers have changed and companies have been bought out.
Sure.
And to keep that same My Pie flavor, they've had to alter things over the years. Now, they used to be in Minnesota, and so I sort of grew up having My Pie in Minneapolis. Yes.
So I live
right
down the street. It's a problem.
It is.
It's a big problem.
When I take people there and they're like, wait a second, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know how good it was. They can't believe how good My Pie is. And it's like, it's right under your nose. It's right in Bucktown.
It's true. It's literally down my alley and I walk right to My Pie. So at night, like around 9 p.m., I could be sitting on my couch and thinking about a My Pie slice, and I can literally walk down the street.
We rent out our basement for Airbnb, and we had Airbnbs from San Francisco in last week, and she was like, we wanted to have a deep dish pizza. We read that you liked My Pie. They went to My Pie. She's like, this is the best pizza I've ever had. That's deep dish. Because, again, the New Yorkers come to town for 3 days. They spend all their time in a hotel off Michigan Avenue. Mm-hmm. They go to the 4 places that are within walking distance.
Sure.
Several of them are stuffed pies, not deep dish, which is a problem. That means a layer of dough across the top and sauce on that. You're just doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. I don't go to New York and spend all my time in Times Square and go, oh, all they have here is Bubba Gump and TGI Fridays. I thought New York had better food than this. But that's what they're doing with deep dish. So you're from the East Coast originally. So I want to ask you, some people have this opinion about they want it either right out of the oven, hot, but that could also burn your top of your mouth.
Yes.
They'd rather have it come out of the oven, let it sit, get room temperature, and then when you order a slice, reheat it for 3 minutes in the oven and just kind of bring it back to life. Do you like that style or right out of the oven hot?
I like both, but I like again, everything pizza. Everything just my mother used to make, so to answer your question, I like it reheated.
Okay.
And then my mom used to make, I have 11 brothers and sisters. Believe it or not, my mom used to take English muffins and make pizza for the whole group with English muffins.
That's interesting.
They're absolutely
My
delicious.
mom used to do like in the toaster oven with like a slice of that Kraft cheese and slices of green olives. Which is bizarre.
My mom used to take, because there were 11 kids and then other people trying to help, she used to take an ironing board with, 15 grilled cheese sandwiches wrapped in tinfoil, and she would be ironing all the grilled cheese sandwiches.
That sounds like Jose Andres in Puerto Rico. Like,
yeah, it does.
Seriously making do with, a quick service.
Yeah, we saw him doing that.
Wow.
When we were there.
Well, now I know, having lived in New York, you fold it to eat.
Yeah, you got to fold it from the side.
Yeah, so is there a certain technique in Chicago? Do they follow suit, or there's certain...
No. In terms of Chicago-style pizza, you mean? Well, there are two. Of course, when I say Chicago-style pizza, I'm thinking tavern-style, square cut, thin and crispy, which requires no special instructions. Just put it in your hand. It's small. Or deep dish, which does require a knife and fork. Yes. But I think the good deep dishes are so firm underneath that you don't need a knife and fork the whole way through. Maybe on the tip only, but then you can, halfway through, you pick it up with your hand. So I don't think there is necessarily a technique for that.
So cornmeal crust, question mark?
Yes, that is a Chicago-style thing for sure. Cornmeal underneath, on the pan before you put the dough on, as a way to prevent sticking.
I'm talking about...
Oh, in the crust.
In the crust.
Yeah, I like cornmeal. I think, or corn flour in some cases. So La Briola does corn flour, corn oil in the dough, and then cornmeal underneath, like Barnaby's does to prevent from sticking, but also to give it a little bit of flavor and texture. I like cornmeal. I think in the Midwest we like corn-fed beef. We like corn. I like corn period plain, as it is.
Corn
I like bourbon, which has a lot of corn in it.
Right.
And I think that's why in the Midwest you see a lot of cornmeal in the dough or underneath the dough. That's a big part of the experience here. We call pinch and press bulk sausage is a big Chicago Midwestern thing that you don't see on the East Coast at all.
Margaret, how bad do you want pizza right now?
I am getting so hungry
I
for
think
pizza.
we're going to definitely
I should have brought one. I feel terrible. I only brought a book. I should have brought a whole pizza for you guys.
So one thing that I have to tell you about in our showroom, we have this Turbo Chef oven by Viking. It is crazy. It makes pizza from scratch in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Wow.
It's a speed cook oven.
That's
we're going to have to play with that.
It's like a Neapolitan oven. That's a serious oven.
It's a serious oven. So getting off the subject of pizza, because I think we could talk about this all day long. And I love how much information he really is the real deal with pizza, guys. I'm going to cherish this book.
I've been eating significantly for the last 2 years.
So I want to know about the Hungry Hound. I want to know more about that. Tell our foodie friends about the Hungry Hound and how did that start and why is it the Hungry Hound?
So I was a news reporter for several years in the Midwest. I came to Chicago in 92, worked for CLTV, the Tribune Company as a news reporter. And then in 95, they were launching a food show called Good Eating. And they were looking for people who could sort of recreate or translate the Tribune's food section into a TV show. I did that for about a year, became the host a year later. We did Good Eating for 8 years. We did 52 shows a year, half-hour shows based on the Trib's food section. And so I really got into food television and production at that point. And then in 03, they canceled the show. So I left and I shopped myself around as a food reporter to a couple of stations in town. ABC offered me a part-time job. I, of course, jumped at it. It was a great deal to do 2 stories per week, that whatever I wanted to do, food-related. And the first day on the job, we had a planning meeting with the 11 a.m. producers, and they said, what are we going to call you? What's your segment called? I'm like, I don't know, the food guy, the chow hound. They're like, well, there's already a chow hound website. Some producer goes, how about the Hungry Hound? And they're like, okay, done. Next thing on the agenda. That was it. It took like 5 seconds. And then it's like, and it kind of stuck. So that was in 03. It was 15 years ago when I started there.
Wow.
And I was doing 2 stories a week, went to 4 stories a week at one point. Now I'm back to 2 stories a week, which is plenty. So I'm on the air Fridays at 11:50 a.m. live, and then Saturdays at 10 p.m. 2 different stories every week. And so I've been doing that, 15 years.
Who do you think is the biggest foodie at ABC Chicago?
Well, it was Linda Yu until she retired. She and I go out, well, we still go out for dim sum frequently, and she will literally eat like the cheeks and the eyeballs of the fish, and she'll eat the chicken like leg down to the bone. Serious
girl.
Eater. She's intense.
My kind of girl.
I would say Tanya Babich for sure. Yeah, she and I have gone out to eat a couple times. She loves talking food. She's a little Chilean and a little Serbian, and she's from Canada. So she's got all kinds of interesting mixes in her background, and just loves talking food, loves eating and trying new things. So I think Tanya for sure is our resident foodie.
Well, you clearly, I was looking through your website, and you've eaten in so many restaurants. I'm a little jealous. It's like you've
gotten around. Come on.
I have, but not around Chicago as much as you have.
Okay. Well.
But what I want to ask you is, can you cook?
You know what? I can cook. I'm not a bad cook. If you ask my wife, she would say he's definitely competent in the kitchen. I wouldn't say I'm a whiz. Like I can like whip up stuff. Like I'll look at the refrigerator and go, I'm going to make, coq au vin. But no, I can follow a recipe. We do Blue Apron every other week. We do a Blue Apron box, which I love because you are sort of cooking.
Yeah, sure.
And a little improvisation, but you're not wasting anything.
Right.
I hate wasting food when I go to the grocery store. I just don't have as much time to go shopping in the grocery store anymore,
right.
which is kind of a bummer.
It's a job.
But I do love tackling, like I've done the David Chang Momofuku 9-hour pork shoulder, all day in the oven, and then doing the sam and the sides and the kimchi and all the little lettuce wraps and things that go with it. Like I could do that kind of stuff, but again, it's following a recipe.
So what's your one dish? When I come over your house, you're like, I'm cooking this for Margaret and Jamie.
I'd probably do marinated skirt steaks and like homemade pico de gallo.
Delicious.
That does sound delicious.
Yeah. And a Hemingway daiquiri, by the way. I'm a hell of a daiquiri maker, yeah. Because I always have like a light rum on hand. I always have fresh lime juice in my refrigerator. Little known secret. I always have simple syrup and lime juice in my fridge. And I always got a bottle of Luxardo maraschino liqueur. So I can whip up a Hemingway daiquiri like that.
And he lives close by.
Yes.
I'm totally going to stop that.
With pizza. We'll bring the pizza.
Good combo.
So I love, too, that you host. You are just so busy. You are Mr. Multimedia. And you also, on top of all of this, you co-host the Feed podcast with Chef Rick Bayless.
With Mr. Bayless.
How did that
So that was an interesting genesis also. So a couple of years ago, we were sitting around and we're like, why can't we do a food show on public radio? I worked there for 10 years as a contributor. Rick's wife was or is, or she was on the board at BEZ, and we love WBEZ. We love 91.5. All these great shows came from there, and there isn't really like a weekly food show. So we pitched this food show to the powers that be. They said no. I'm like, okay. And then Rick's wife, Deanne, said, why don't you guys do a podcast? Started messing around. Like we did it at Columbia College. Then we decided to do it in his test kitchen above the restaurant because it was like everything was there. He wanted to make sure we cooked once in a while. So we do these ingredient challenges where we ask chefs to come in and we take pomegranates. And we say, that's a pomegranate challenge. You get 5 extra ingredients. What could you make using pomegranates as the main dish in 15 minutes or less? And I kind of moderate the actions. We do that every 3 or 4 weeks. And then in the intervening weeks, and we do shows every week, like we do 50 or 51 shows a year. We do everything. We cover the industry. We've got a show coming up on how do you pick music in restaurants. We did a show on labor in the industry. We did a show on LA, Koreatown. I did because I was in LA recently. So I do some food reporting. He does some cooking and he talks about the industry. And it's really I think it's been a success. Like we're now on the Podcast One network, which is great. And they're helping us sort of with advertising and promotion. And we wanted to be on a network. We wanted to build our subscriber base, our people that are listening to us every week. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, he's amazing. Yes. Just like a wealth of knowledge and like the super most down-to-earth guy. He's from Oklahoma, grew up in a barbecue family. And so we talk about barbecue. Whenever we talk about barbecue or donuts or onion rings, his eyes light up. He talks about, he's a geek about coffee, which people don't realize. So it's way more than Mexican food. Like that, wow. We talk about that every, 8th week.
I've met Steve over the years here and there. We are on the James Beard Award red carpet. We see you doing that. But you seem like you're a really down-to-earth guy. You have
thanks.
nobody. You walked in.
There is no handler or assistant off camera. I have no intern kind of holding my bag. I'm by myself.
You keep it simple.
I try to keep it simple. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's all up here, which is probably a good and a bad thing. But I can keep track of it myself. And, I'm from St. Cloud, Minnesota. I can't be that. I don't know. It is what it is. I'm just trying to work hard and make a living.
I think it's working. Thank you for coming into our show. And what do you think of the place?
It's beautiful. It really is. It's stunning. It makes me want to cook. It makes me want to get a griddle. I've always said, like, I needed a flat top in my house.
Tell me something about the awards in your house.
So in the 90s, when I first started winning Beard Awards, they were the sponsor for the Broadcast Media Awards always. So television, radio, and we won stuff for, PRIs of the world and public radio and CLTV. And so we've got these actual trophies in addition to the certificates that say the Viking Range. I mean, it literally is like a cutout of the range top.
Oh, cool.
Viking Range Broadcast Media Awards, Beard Awards. So it's always top of mind. And then right before we moved out of our townhouse in Bucktown to our single family, we put in a Viking Range to help sell it. And that was actually one of the ways we sold it, because the guy who bought it from Glun's, Joe Glun's from Glun's Wines was like, I want that range. And they bought the house.
Wow.
See?
I love that. Well, we always like to end Kitchen Chat with the guest's top 3 tips for the home chef. And since you do cook some, what would you say would...
I would say mise en place for sure. Be organized and get everything ready to go and don't just wing it. I would say if you're doing a recipe, read the recipe first from beginning to end to understand what the processes are and what you're going to need tool-wise. And I would say work clean. So clean as you go so you don't have a mess at the end. I learned that from Martin Yan.
And make sure you have fresh squeezed lime juice at all times.
In your fridge at all times, because you never know when someone's going to need a Hemingway daiquiri.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear foodie friends, for joining us on Kitchen Chat. Make sure you visit us in the kitchen, kitchenchat.info, and also in this beautiful showroom here in the Merchandise Mart. And check out thevikinglife.com. And always remember to take a moment and savor the day.
Thanks for joining Margaret for Kitchen Chat today. Margaret would be so excited for you to drop by and visit with her at kitchenchat.info, where you'll enjoy podcasts, blogs, recipes, tips from chefs, and even great giveaways. She invites you to share your recipes and kitchen stories too. As Margaret always says, savor the day.